Well friends, we are here to start with the discussion of one of the important subject which is the core subject of electronic science, namely electrodynamics and microwaves. The title of the course itself indicates what we are going to discuss about, what are its contents, what are the scope and limitations. Actually, when we study any such subject, we study it with 6 folds. For example, we study theoretical aspects, mathematical aspects, computational aspects, instrumental aspects, experimental aspects, applied aspects, and obviously the commercial aspects. Whenever we study any course in science, some basic things must be understood first, because if we understand the basics, then our interest in the subject is enhanced and we get more involved in the study of that subject. And that is why it is very important to know about the basic things before we study or undertake any new subject in science. When we talk or look around us, we observe many phenomena, and naturally a question strikes our mind which can be summarized through a series of questions: what, why, when, how, when, and so on and so forth. To get the answers of these questions, we adopt or we try to develop what is called as a scientific approach. And in scientific approach, we obviously make some measurements. On the basis of those measurements, we just draw some inferences. The measurements may be of different types. For example, whenever we are traveling through a car, we are worried about the petrol consumed, the kilometers covered, the time needed, and so on. While launching a satellite, the scientists worry about the frequency of transmission of the signal, time period of revolution of the satellite, and the power consumption, payload, and many other things. In brief, every branch of science has to worry about several physical quantities. Natural question arises: what are the different types of physical quantities? If we just take a note about various branches of science, we have mechanics, hydrodynamics, electronics, quantum mechanics, nanophysics, and so on and so forth. In every branch of science, we are having number of physical activities, number of physical quantities, many types of experiments. The question arises in our mind: how to classify these quantities and how to measure them? What should be the precision? What should be the accuracy? And so many things. As far as the mathematical aspect is concerned, we must know little algebra and the necessary techniques and tools of manipulation. And for that purpose, before we undertake any course, any study of any new subject, it is always better to have some revision about the basics of that science. And for that purpose, in this module, we are going to discuss very elementary, probably known to us, and some new things as a brushing up, or you may call it as a warming up exercises in the beginning, so that when you enter the jungle of electrodynamics, you will definitely come alive of that without any injury, without any difficulty. And once you understand the basic things about physical quantities, their classification, units, dimensions, and some simple things, vectors and scalars, you will not be afraid of studying electrodynamics, and the rigor in it will be rather enjoyable. With this point of view in mind, we are going to discuss about some basic aspects which may be mathematical, which may be qualitative, which may be quantitative in this module. The contents of this module are aimed at understanding different types, systems of measurements, and the concept of dimensions of physical quantities. In addition, it is expected to make one understand some important aspects from algebra of vectors and their applications through simple illustrations. Introduction of the concept of pseudo vectors and pseudo scalars, and the method of conversion of equations in electromagnetics are the other learning objectives of this module. Let us have a look over the collection of different physical quantities. What do you observe here? Are you reminded of mechanics? Do the words like voltage, current, transformer, generator, microphone sound in your mind? Are these terms from what is known as thermodynamics? What are these numbers from? Do you remember the formula for area of circle, kinetic energy, the natural Bayesian logarithm? Yes, you are right. Directly or indirectly, we talk about science subjects like physics, chemistry, electronics, botany, zoology, geology, geography, etc., mathematics, statistics, computer science, environmental science, nanotechnology, archaeology, automation, and many others. As mentioned in the beginning, we deal with physical properties associated with various kinds of phenomena which we try to quantify using measurements or computations. Such physical properties are known as physical quantities. Symbols, system of units, the concept of dimensions, and the ways of classification are some of the basic aspects which must be known to us. So, to begin with, let us see how can these physical quantities be classified. Suppose somebody asks you, classify the people in the world. What will be your answer? Definitely you will ask about the criterion to be used. The classification can be done language wise, country wise, height wise, weight wise, etc. Similar is the case with classification of physical quantities. The criterion used for classification of physical quantities can be the need of specification of direction, branch, any other physical quantity for their description, and so on. The physical quantities can be classified as fundamental and derived physical quantities. Fundamental physical quantities do not depend upon any other physical quantity for their description. On the other hand, the physical quantities which depend upon one or many of the fundamental physical quantities are called as derived physical quantities. 7 quantities, namely length, mass, time, electric current, temperature, luminous intensity, amount of substance are selected as fundamental physical quantities. All other quantities are the derived physical quantities. Consider speed, for example. For measurement of speed, we need to measure distance travelled and time. Hence, speed is a derived quantity. Acceleration, force, work, power, energy are some of the examples of derived physical quantities in mechanics. While electric charge, electric field, electric potential, magnetic field, magnetic potential, magnetic dipole moment, magnetization are some of the examples of derived physical quantities in electromagnetics. It will be a good exercise to enlist the derived physical quantities in various branches of physics. Another aspect associated with physical quantities is its dimensions. Dimensions of physical quantity are nothing but the powers to which the fundamental physical quantities are required to be raised for their complete description. Knowledge of dimensions is useful to obtain their units in terms of the fundamental quantities. A rectangular bracket, which is optional, may be used to specify the dimensions of the given quantity. Thus, we have dimensions of displacement equal to 1 in length, time which is 1 in time, etc. The dimensions of every physical quantity is 1 in that quantity. For example, dimensions of length is 1 in length. Similarly, we talk of 1 in mass, 1 in time, etc. as seen from the table. The dimensions of a given physical quantity can be derived using its defining formula or suitable expression involving the given physical quantity. the ratio of displacement and the corresponding time interval is known as velocity. Using this knowledge, the dimensions of velocity can be obtained as follows. Dimensions of velocity is L raised to 1 into 2 raised to minus 1. How? See, velocity is equal to displacement upon time. Therefore, dimensions of velocity are the dimensions of displacement upon dimensions of time, that is 1 in length upon 1 in time, that is 1 in length and minus 1 in time t. The dimensions of a given physical quantity can be derived using any suitable expression involving the given physical quantity. For example, from Ampere's law in magnetostatics, we know that the line integral of intensity of magnetic field H over a closed path equals the total current I associated with the loop. Using this, we understand that the dimensions of H are 1 in current and minus 1 in length. Accordingly, the units of H will be ampere per meter. Thus, we say that dimensions can be derived by using the expression which involves the physical quantity. Try to verify the dimensions of some electromagnetic quantities listed in the table as an exercise. In the case of these tabulated physical quantities and some more, try to find out defining formulae or any suitable expression involving the physical quantities with known dimensions. Dimensions of physical quantities can be 0. Can it be? Is it true? The answer is yes. The physical quantities expressible as a ratio of two physical quantities having same dimensions will have this property and are known as dimensionless physical quantities. Plane angle, which is the ratio of arc length to radius, is one of such example of dimensionless physical quantity. Other examples include solid angle, refractive index, dielectric constant, etc. Try to search for few more. Obviously, one may expect dimensionless physical quantities as being pure numbers. Some quantities, though dimensionless, are given some special units and are known as supplementary physical quantities. Plane angle and solid angle are these two physical quantities. One may ask the question, why to study dimensions? There are many reasons. We can obtain relation between units of a physical quantity in different systems. Secondly, using dimensions, we can establish the relation for dependence of a physical quantity on other probable physical quantities. And thirdly, we can check whether a given physical equation can be acceptable. Knowing that the dimensions of force are 1 in length, minus 2 in time, 1 in mass, we understand that 1 Newton is equal to 10 raised to 5 dyne. Similarly, using dimensions of energy, we can establish the relation between Gaussian and SI unit of energy as 10 raised to 7 erg equal to 1 joule. It is advised to exercise and refresh our knowledge with some physical quantities in electrodynamics. Dimensions can be used to establish the relation for dependence of physical quantity on other probable physical quantities. For example, if we assume that the kinetic energy E of an object of mass m moving with linear speed v, then we can get the relation E equal to k into mv square, where k is a numerical constant which is to be obtained through experimental work. Dimensions can be used to check whether a given physical equation can be acceptable. Every acceptable physical equation must be dimensionally balanced. Each term in a dimensionally balanced equation must have same dimensions. Thus, for example, AC is equal to UT plus AT square is an acceptable equation. Non-acceptable equation, AC is equal to AT plus UT square. Please note that the dimensions of two or more different physical quantities can be same. For example, work, torque, moment of force have same dimensions. A dimensionally balanced or homogeneous equation need not necessarily be the real and true equation. When we talk about measurements of physical quantities in electrodynamics, natural questions arises whether it is a small scale measurement or large scale measurement, whether it is automatic measurement, what are the instruments used, what is their accuracy, what is their sensitivity, significant figures to be kept in the final result, and so many other things. We will concentrate on only two things, that is small scale measurement and large scale measurement. For measurements on small scale, a system known as Gaussian system of unit is used. In this system, distance is measured in centimeter, mass in gram, and time in second. Hence, the system is also known as CGS system. The other system used on the large scale is the International System of Units, abbreviated as SI. In this system, length, mass, time and electric current are measured in meter, kilogram, second and ampere respectively. Hence, many a times it is referred as MKSS system of units. One should know about the units of different physical quantities in SI as well as in Gaussian system of units. The unit of electric charge and mass in Gaussian systems are statcoulomb and gram respectively. The unit of charge in SI system is coulomb and that in Gaussian is statcoulomb. Dimensions of a physical quantity can be used to obtain relation between units of quantity in different system of units. Though we may come across different symbols used by authors in literature, one should note that international standard symbols of different physical quantities have been fixed. Dimensions are useful to obtain units of physical quantities. However, one should have a knowledge about special names assigned to units of some physical quantities. Textbooks on electrodynamics available may use Gaussian or SI units. Accordingly, the equations or expressions may appear different. In such a case, we must know how to convert a given equation in one system to another system. Use of reference tables for such interconversion may be done. As an example, expression for Coulomb's law, namely F is equal to Q1 Q2 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 R square in SI system takes the form F is equal to Q1 Q2 upon R square with replacement of Q in SI by Q into under root of 4 pi epsilon 0. What about other quantities? Refer to the table in which three physical quantities are considered. Speed of light c in an equation in SI system is to be replaced by 1 over under root of mu 0 epsilon 0 to convert the equation to SI. Similarly, electric field E or electric potential phi in an equation is to be replaced by under root of 4 pi epsilon 0 times E or phi. Tables for such interconversion between Gaussian and SI systems are available in literature. Friends, so far we have discussed about various types of physical quantities, their classification as fundamental and derived quantities, the concept and importance of dimensions of physical quantities, the different systems of measurements. Now, let us enter the jungle of mathematics for study and refresh our knowledge about another type of physical quantities wherein the basis of classification is any need of direction for their description. The quantities which do not need the specification of direction for their description are known as scalars. Distance, time, speed, pressure, work, energy, mass, electric charge, temperature, pressure, power, refractive index, plane angle, solid angle, electric charge, electric potential are some of the examples of scalar quantities. On the other hand, for some physical quantity, it is quite but essential to specify the direction for their complete description. Such quantities are called as vectors. Displacement, velocity, acceleration, force, torque, linear and angular momentum, electric current, electric field are some of the examples of vector quantities. For mathematical treatment with vector quantities, it is essential to know about some aspects with vectors. We must know how to represent a vector quantity, how to carry out algebraic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, etc. with vector quantities. Let us brush up some of such aspects now. A vector quantity is represented symbolically using a bold-faced letter or a letter with an arrow or simply with a bar on it. A vector is represented graphically using a straight line segment with suitable scale directed in the same direction and sense with an arrowhead. A vector A has magnitude and direction as is seen in the diagram. The length of the arrow with proper scale represents the magnitude of the vector and the arrowhead indicates the direction. A vector having unit magnitude is called as unit vector. Another important term used in connection with vector is its projection or component along a given direction. Let us try to understand it. Let B be a vector inclined at an angle theta with a straight line ln as shown. Draw a straight line BM through point B perpendicular to ln meeting it in M. Then AM is called as a projection of AB along LM. Simple trigonometrical calculations give AM is equal to AB into cos theta. It be noted that the projection of a vector represents the effective value or component of that vector in the specified direction. Thus, for example, if B represents the force applied to an object, then the projection B cos theta represents the force effective along N. One must know some results or properties collectively referred as algebra of vectors. It includes properties like commutative, associative, distributive and many others. Some of the properties are as shown. One of the basic and frequently used operation with vectors is the addition. Consider the case in which more than one forces are applied, either in succession or simultaneously on a wooden block. Here in this case, one may be interested in knowing about the net displacement of the wooden block or the net force acting on it, etc. For this, we must know about some mathematical tools. Let us discuss about three of them, namely triangle law of vector addition, law of parallelogram and polygon method of vector addition, which are the graphical methods for vector addition. For addition of two or more vectors, two approaches, namely graphical and analytical, can be followed. In graphical method, generally known as polygon method, attention be given to careful drawing with precise scale and the directions of vectors involved. In analytical method, which is more convenient, knowledge of some results from trigonometry is a prerequisite. Let us discuss about what is known as triangle law of vector addition. Let us suppose that we want to add two vectors. For this, as the first step, with a suitable scale, draw the first vector, say AB. Then, starting from the end of the first vector, draw the other vector BC in proper direction and sense with the same scale. Lastly, join points A and C. The vector AC drawn from the starting point A of the first vector to the end C of the second vector represents in magnitude and direction the addition of the two given vectors with the same scale. Thus, to summarize, while applying triangle law of vector addition, the stepwise procedure will be as follows. Step number 1, with a suitable scale, draw the first vector. Then step number 2, starting from the end of the first vector, draw the other vector in proper direction and sense with the same scale. Step number 3, the vector drawn from the starting point of the first to the end of the second vector represents in magnitude and direction the addition of the two given vectors with the same scale. As a practical application of triangle law, let us consider the displacement of a ball from A to C using a system of three inclined planes, namely AB, BC and AC. Observe the way in which the displacement can be done. As a practical application of triangle law, let us consider the displacement of a ball along an inclined plane. Observe the way in which the displacement can be done. Thus, the ball reaches to the destination. Now, see the other way of assuming that the ball can be displaced using an inclined plane. Thus, the ball can be taken to point C using the plane AC instead of first displacing it from A to B and then from B to C using a system of two separate planes. In mathematical language, we describe the whole process with the help of an equation AB bar plus BC bar is equal to AC bar. Sometimes we have a situation wherein two vectors are acting at a point simultaneously. A wooden table pulled by two persons with different forces simultaneously can be seen as an example of it. To determine the resultant motion of the table, the application of what is known as law of parallelogram can be applied. Let us discuss it with the help of an illustration. Consider two vectors p bar and q bar inclined at an angle theta acting at a point O simultaneously. The problem is to determine the resultant of the two vectors. Complete the parallelogram OABC with OA equal to P and OC equal to Q with suitable scale. Then the diagonal OB drawn from O to B represents the resultant of P and Q in magnitude and direction with the same scale. Elementary trigonometrical manipulations yield the result for magnitude R and direction delta of the resultant with vector P as shown. As an illustration of the law of parallelogram, let us discuss the equilibrium of weight W under the application of two weights W1 and W2 using the system of two pulleys as shown in the diagram. Here, weight W1 means the vector P and the weight W2 means the vector Q in the earlier discussion which we have made regarding the law of parallelogram. What about the other diagonal of the parallelogram? From triangle of vector addition, we can understand that it represents the difference of the two vectors under consideration. The magnitude and direction of the difference vector D can be obtained using trigonometrical results as shown. The difference vector, also referred as relative vector, finds many applications. Let us consider two of them. As the first example, let us discuss the problem of a swimmer who wishes to cross the river. A swimmer wishes to dive into a river from A to B. The velocity of the water in river is say V river. The velocity of water in river is say V river. If water in river is still, that is if V river is 0, then there is no difficulty for the swimmer. He can straightway cross the river diving along AC. But generally it is not the case. Water in the river is flowing, it must flow. In this case, the swimmer will be driven in the direction of flow of water and instead of reaching to point B, he will finally reach to point C. The resultant velocity of the swimmer can be obtained by application of law of parallelogram and is as shown by the red arrow in the diagram. What should be done by the swimmer to reach point B? The solution is to dive in a direction inclined at an angle theta with the direction of flow of water. The manipulations involved can be done using trigonometrical results. Note that here velocity of man is the difference between velocity of river and the resultant velocity V of the swimmer along the straight path AB. For a given value of velocity of swimmer, manipulation of angle theta becomes significant. With this choice of the direction, the swimmer will finally reach to the point B as desired. The other example is very common and experienced by everyone. Look at the man with an umbrella walking fast, nearly running along a horizontal road. Why the person has tilted the umbrella in forward direction? Think. The answer can be obtained by mathematical analysis of the situation wherein the concept of relative velocity is incorporated. Let us see how. Let V man be the velocity of man with an umbrella running along a horizontal road with velocity V man. Let us suppose that suddenly it starts raining vertically down. Let V rain be the rain velocity. Thus, here two velocities, that of rain and man, are present simultaneously. For a person standing still on the road, it is raining vertically down and the man is running in the horizontal direction. But for the man running with umbrella, raindrops appear to be falling at an angle delta. Hence, the man tilts his umbrella through an angle delta in the forward direction. Mathematical analysis reveals the fact that velocity of rain with respect to man is the difference between the velocities of man and rain. Mathematical analysis can be better understood using this diagram. So far, we have discussed the two laws of vector addition, namely triangle law and the law of parallelogram. By repetitive application of triangle law, we can add any number of vectors. The method is known in literature as polygon method for addition of vectors. Let us try to understand the method through an illustration. It be noted that polygon has more than two sides and can have any shape. Have a look at different shapes of polygons. Let us suppose that we want to add 5 vectors A, B, C, D and E as shown. Displace the vector to be added parallel to itself till its starting point coincides with the end point of the earlier vector to which it is to be added and obtain the resultant vector using triangle law. Repeat this procedure to obtain the final result. Observe carefully how the vectors are added one after the other. Where do we come across addition of vectors in real life situations? Here is an example of uniform motion of a wooden block down the inclined plane. Note that the resultant of the three forces acting on the block is 0. Try to search for some more examples. One more point simple to understand is scalar multiple of a vector. Multiplying a given vector, say A bar, by a scalar, say M, generates a new vector, say B, which is called as scalar multiple of A. Try to understand this concept through graphical illustrations which follow. The vectors which are lying along the same straight line are known as collinear vectors. Let us have a look at the graphical illustration for addition of two collinear vectors. So far, we have dealt with simple but basic operations of addition of vectors. What can we say about product or multiplication of two vectors? Representation of a product of two vectors depends upon the nature, scalar or vector, of the physical quantity resulting out of the interaction of the two vectors. Obviously, we define two types of products, namely scalar product and vector product. Scalar product, also known as dot product, is defined as A bar dot B bar is equal to AB cos theta, where theta is the angle between the two vectors. Work done by a force during the displacement of an object is a well-known example of the scalar product. Work W done by a force F during the displacement S of an object is given by W is equal to F bar dot S. Examples of scalar product are electric flux and magnetic flux, which are given by E dot ds and B dot ds respectively. If the physical quantity resulting out of interaction of two vectors is a vector quantity, then the product is called as a vector product and is represented by putting a cross in between the two vectors. It is also known as a cross product. It has a magnitude which is equal to the products of magnitudes of the two vectors and sine ratio of the angle between the two vectors. It is directed in the direction perpendicular to the plane containing the two vectors and has a sense upward or downward as per the right-handed screw rule. Angular momentum, torque, moment of force are some of the examples of vector product. It be noted that area is a vector quantity which is to be frequently accounted for in electrodynamics. We are coming to the end of this presentation. So far, many of the aspects dealt with are familiar with us. So we can have something interesting to note? Certainly yes. Have you heard about pseudo vectors and pseudo scalars? There is a change in sign in both of these quantities after something. What is that something? Pseudo vectors, after what is known as improper rotation, undergo a change in sign, though magnitude does not change. Let us not be afraid of the phrase improper rotation. Reflection is one of the familiar examples of improper rotation. Note what happens to the sign of the given vector when all the vectors giving rise to that vector quantity are replaced by their mirror images. If the magnitude remains same but the sign changes, then that vector quantity is called as a pseudo vector. Angular momentum, which is given by L is equal to R cross P, is an example of pseudo vector. In this, note down the vectors after mirror reflection and note the result that L is equal to minus L dash. Thus, there is a change in the sign. Hence, angular momentum is a pseudo vector. If there occurs a change of sign after reversal of parity of the vectors involved in the expression for a scalar quantity, then the scalar quantity is called as pseudo scalar. Roughly speaking, reversal of parity of a vector implies change of sign of the vector. Scalar triple product is an example of pseudo scalar. In this diagram, note that Q bar is equal to minus P bar. Thus, the scalar triple product is an example of pseudo scalar. The terms like vectors, scalars, proper and improper rotation, parity, etc. may appear to be much familiar at first sight. However, the mathematical rigor is very difficult and is a matter of self-experience. Let us summarize what we have done in this module and meet again to discuss some other concepts like coordinate systems in the next module. Summary: physical quantities can be classified mainly as fundamental and derived physical quantities and vectors and scalars depending upon the need of any physical quantities or direction for their description respectively. Dimensions of a physical quantity are useful in obtaining units of the quantity in a given system in terms of units of fundamental quantities and many other things. The interconversion of electromagnetic equations or expressions from Gaussian to SI and vice versa can be done with the help of reference tables of conversion. Vectors can be added using polygon method, triangle law and the law of parallelogram of vector addition being the special cases of it. The sum and difference vectors in law of parallelogram are useful in many practical situations. Pseudo vectors and pseudo scalars both undergo a change of sign under improper rotation and inversion of parity respectively. Thank you.